Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Senator Buck? Here. Senator Hansen? Here. Senator Donyate? Here. Senator Pazina?
Present.
Chair Wynn?
Present. We are all here, and there is a first revised agenda that just recently went up. We had one bill that we did pull off, and so we do have one bill hearing, but I know that we have committee members that are going to leave to present, so we are actually going to start with the work session document, and I'm going to turn this over to Ms. King to go over what I hope will be a consent agenda minus Assembly Bill 20. That will be removed from the work session today.
Thank you, Chair Wynn. For the record, Julian King, Policy Analyst with the Legislative Council Bureau. I would like to note that as nonpartisan staff, I cannot advocate for or against any measure that this committee will consider. To begin, Assembly Bill 46 revises provisions relating to privileges applicable to information obtained from records and other property of public utilities and certain other entities. The bill is sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure on behalf of the PUCN and was heard on April 30th, and there are no amendments. Assembly Bill 55 adds the requirement that blood drawn from deceased motor vehicle crash victims be analyzed for the presence and concentration of commonly misused substances as determined by the coroner or other official performing similar examinations, among other provisions. The bill is sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure on behalf of DPS's Office of Traffic Safety and was heard on April 28th, and there are no amendments. Assembly Bill 174 allows providers of retail voice service via satellite to be included among the providers of alternative voice service for the purposes of determining whether certain telecommunication providers may be relieved of their obligations as a provider of last resort in areas where alternative voices services are provided. The bill is sponsored by Assemblymember Marzola and was heard on April 28th. There are no amendments. Assembly Bill 361 requires a regional transportation commission in a county with a population of 100,000 or more to install and maintain certain infrastructure and technology to mitigate safety risks to transit operators and to install signage informing the public about the criminal penalties for assault or battery of a transit operator. The bill is sponsored by Assemblymember Hunt and was heard on May 5th. There are no amendments. And finally, Assembly Bill 417 requires peace officers to inspect vehicles suspected of involvement in unauthorized speed contests or trick driving displays for equipment violations or unsafe conditions, among other provisions. The bill is sponsored by Assemblymember Hunt and was heard on May 7th. There are no amendments. Thank you, Chair Wynn.
Thank you. We've heard the descriptions of Assembly Bill 46, Assembly Bill 55, Assembly Bill 174, Assembly Bill 361, and Assembly Bill 417. Do we have any questions for Ms. King regarding those? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion. Are they all do pass? Yes. I would accept a motion to do pass those bills as read by Ms. King.
Motion to do pass the bills just read, AB 46, 55, 174, 361, and 417.
And I have a motion from Senator Pazina, a second from Senator Buck. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously, and so I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 46 to Senator Hansen. I will send the man, I'm struggling this afternoon. I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 55 to Senator Buck. I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 174 to Senator Pazina. I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 361 to myself, and I will assign the floor statement on Assembly Bill 417 to Senator Donyate. And so with that, I will end the work session, and we will move to, I will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 452 and ask our bill sponsor to come up to the table and begin when you are ready.
Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present Assembly Bill 452. My name is Tracy Brown May. For the record, I proudly represent Nevada Assembly District 42. I'm honored to represent my district and have spent a great deal of time working with constituents that live throughout my Assembly district. This measure that we're presenting today, Assembly Bill 452, is important in helping to build transparency in energy costs. Why does it matter? My constituents, they continue to express their concerns with regard to affordability and transparency. Nevadans are facing high, unpredictable utility bills, even when they do the right thing to conserve energy. As someone who hears from struggling families, seniors, and small business owners regularly, I've seen how devastating those bills can be. This measure is about protecting customers from energy price spikes that they can't control and ensuring that they're treated fairly. The problem, right now, the way that the system works is that our energy utility, passes a 100% of fuel and power cost volatility onto ratepayers. Customers have no say in the costs, and they bear the entire financial burden. The utility, meanwhile, while they go through the PUC, they don't have a financial stake in reducing or managing those costs. This measure is about fairness, transparency, and accountability. Volatility is the enemy of affordability. We need a more balanced approach that shifts some of the risk back onto the utility so that they are responsible for helping to keep costs down. In advance of and following the Assembly hearing on this measure, we worked closely with stakeholders to make meaningful adjustments to the language in the bill that addresses feedback and concerns from the Public Utilities Commission, labor, consumer advocates, and the utility. The amended version of this bill does three key things. An investigatory docket. It directs the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada to open a public docket to examine fuel and purchase power costs and evaluate a cost-sharing mechanism. With regard to overcharge protection, if NV Energy overcharges customers, then they must refund the full amount with interest, which ends the partial refund loophole that exists currently. So there would be no more partial refunds like we saw in the news a few months ago. And review timelines. This extends the regulatory timelines for general rate cases to allow for deeper, more thorough review. For me, this is a consumer protection bill. It's about fairness, transparency, and aligning the utilities incentive with good public. I'm proud to bring it forward today, and I'll turn it over to the experts to actually walk us through the measure. Rebecca Wagner will talk us through this bill.
Good afternoon, Chair Wynn, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Rebecca Wagner. I'm here as a policy analyst in support of this measure. And by way of background, you're probably wondering, who is this and why is she here? I served on the Nevada Public Utilities Commission for nearly a decade, and I can't seem to escape the confines of the PUC as much as I loved it. So this bill has taken many twists and turns, and it's transformed significantly since its introduction, which initially started as a very prescriptive bill, and now it's actually what I think is a really measured approach to exploring policies and specifically for fuel cost sharing to help lower rates. The intent of this is for the commission to open one or more dockets, explore how the process is working right now. Are there tweaks? Are there things that can be done to the way it works now? Are there ways to mitigate the impact to customers from high natural gas costs and market purchase costs? And specifically dive into a policy known as fuel cost sharing. It's used in many states across the country, including the West. Almost all the Western states have some version of this, ranging from Hawaii to Wyoming. So it's kind of a universal in an approach to make sure that the risk is aligned appropriately between the customers and the utility, with the intent of trying to mitigate those large price spikes in natural gas. I won't go through the super wonky parts of this, of what we're asking the commission to evaluate. The program or policy design can vary, and I think it's best left to the commission and interveners or participants in the investigatory docket to actually bring experts forward and spend the time looking through that. There's one other piece in here that, I'm sure over time you all have heard about: demand side management, energy efficiency. What can we do to address growing load? There's a provision in this section that asking the commission to look at the integrated resource planning process. Are there things that we can do to help lessen the burden that's created by our growing load? And then for accountability on the commission, they are, not, no offense, Garrett, Mr. Weir, who will be up here in a minute, I'm assuming, just some reporting requirements. When I was a commissioner, I always liked to maintain a good working relationship with the legislature out of cycle during the interim. So I think it's a good policy and practice for the commission to provide updates and reports throughout the process to the interim committee on growth and infrastructure. And then after 18 months or by July 1st of 2026, report out on the outcomes. Did they find anything? Did they initiate a rulemaking? Did they find anything to help lower the cost for customers? And if so, what is that? And what did they do about it? And what could the legislature do about it? And just a note in here, the commission has broad authority to initiate investigatory dockets and then begin a rulemaking process as a result of that. That's common practice. That is the authority that you have delegated to the commission. And so there's a subsection in here that just says if the commission finds this in the public interest, that they're not going to do something that's going to raise rates or harm any customer set. If they find a mechanism in policy that is good for customers, they're going to move forward with the rulemaking if they see fit. Then the other two pieces, the next one is just under an existing tariff, and I think when I looked this up, it was a tariff from like 1983, and it has to do with the refunds to customers for any overcharges by the utility. We've seen recent media coverage of customers who have been overcharged, and I think that this section just says we need to revise that tariff and ensure that customers get the benefit of a full refund with interest for any overcharges. And then lastly, has to do with the timing of rate cases. NV Energy is on cycle to file a rate case alternating between Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada every year, on top of several other discretionary and mandatory dockets. And rate cases are complex, become way more complex than back in my day. And right now, the 210 days is just not enough to ensure that you get a thorough investigation of all the moving pieces of a rate case, ensure due process of the participants in the rate case, and I'll make a pitch for the commissioners. It takes a lot to draft what has turned out to be 200 plus pages of an order that needs to be delivered within a few days for other commissioners to review. So giving the commission 90 days as some breathing room helps with their workflow and hopefully gets a better pace set so the commission has a little more flexibility on all the things that they need to cover. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Cabrera.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christy Cabrera-Georgeson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. NCL has consistently supported policies that align with our core values, advancing clean energy, promoting transparency, and ensuring affordability and accountability for Nevada's utility customers. Fluctuating fossil fuel prices, particularly gas, have contributed significantly to rising energy bills, putting strain on families and businesses. Right now, customers are shouldering 100% of the cost impacts, even when those costs stem from global events or factors beyond their control. That imbalance deserves a closer look. That's why AB 452 is a top priority bill for NCL this legislative session. And we're not alone in believing that this is an important issue. Recent polling shows that 86% of Nevadans support fuel cost sharing. Additionally, I'd like to point to a letter we submitted on Nellis with 23 organizations and businesses from all across the state in support of this bill. This is a bipartisan issue. People want fairness and stable bills. Families and small businesses are desperate for predictability. This bill is a step towards stability and smarter utility decisions. AB 452 also corrects a serious gap in existing policy. It's unacceptable that NV Energy can overcharge customers and only issue a partial refund, like in the case of a Las Vegas couple who paid more than their fair share for 6 years and were only reimbursed for 6 months. This bill ensures that never happens again by requiring full refunds plus interest when the utility is found in the wrong. And finally, AB 452 includes a provision to extend the timeline for general rate case reviews, a needed fix as utility activity at the PUC continues to ramp up. With NV Energy filing back-to-back general rate cases for Northern and Southern Nevada, the volume and pace of filings are making it difficult for regulators, advocates, and the general public to fully review proposals and determine whether costs are fair. More time to evaluate these filings means more transparency, more accountability, and better outcomes for your everyday Nevadan. AB 452 is a balanced, responsible step forward, ensuring any cost-sharing policy is shaped through a transparent, inclusive process with the right stakeholders at the table. It gives regulators better tools to protect families and small businesses, prevents future overcharges, and promotes smarter utility planning and stronger accountability. Above all, it puts your everyday Nevadan first. With that, I'd like to pass things back to Assemblymember Brown-May.
Thank you. Tracy Brown-May for the record. That concludes our presentation. We're happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. I think I have a question. I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions, but I will go ahead and start off with my question here. When we're looking at section 1.7, I know that there was quite a few news stories about, I think it's the example that you gave about the customer that had overcharged for, or had been overcharged for 6 years. Was it a policy decision at NV Energy that only allowed for her to recover 6 months of that time period, or can you elaborate on the need for this?
Tracy Brown-May for the record. Thank you for the question. Chair, in my meetings with the PUC, it actually was a state policy. It was not prescribed by NV Energy. That was not their policy. It was something that was an existing statute that the PUC governed. So it would require a change at the PUC to make sure that this person got the full refund.
And would this section, inclusion of this section 1.7, give guidance to the PUC to come up with that determination, including what interest would be for that full overcharge?
Tracy Brown-May for the record. Thank you for that clarification. That is our intent, that we would work directly with the PUC so that they would come up with changing the language that's currently in statute that would allow for a full recovery period. In conversations with NV Energy, they have a statutory requirement that goes back a certain number of years, and I don't remember exactly what that was, maybe 3 years, for record-keeping purposes, where they would be able to track back what the overcharges would be at that point in time, and then we would presume customary interest based on that.
Was that part of the problem in not being able to go back 6 years, was because they didn't have the corresponding records to know exactly what those, I guess, overcharges were during that time?
Tracy Brown-May for the record. No, I'm going to say it was not NV Energy, and no one, to the best of my knowledge, asked for those records from them. What was in the requirements that the PUCN identified was only a period of months. So NV Energy complied with the request from the PUC to make that payment. Could it have been done differently? Probably, but I believe that the utility acted in the interest that was prescribed by regulations that the PUC has oversight of.
Sorry, I'm just going to keep asking you questions about this. When there are overcharges, and this might be a question for NV Energy, if they come up to the table, and if they don't, I might ask them to come up to the table. I'm assuming that this obviously rose to the level, this case rose to the level, we saw it on the news, and we saw like articles and information on the news about it. How did it get to the point where it's at the PUC? And I'm assuming that sometimes when there's overcharges, probably customers just deal with it internally by calling NV Energy and they say, okay, we realize that we overcharged you, and they just make those refunds? Or do all of these cases come through the PUC?
For the record, Rebecca Wagner. It can happen in a matter of ways. So customer gets an overcharge, they call NV Energy, they say, this is what happened, I don't understand. NV Energy can try to resolve it. If NV Energy can't resolve it to the satisfaction of the customer always has the opportunity to take it to the Public Utilities Commission Consumer Division, and they will look into it, act on behalf of the customer to try and figure out what's going on. And then at times, it can be elevated through to an investigation and ultimately all the way up to the commissioners. In this particular case, I think because there was either regulation or tariff on point, I don't know the details of it, so actually I'm just guessing at this point, but I think they were limited by what they could do based on the confines of what's either in regulation or in the tariff.
Has the PUCN, I mean, obviously at any time they probably could have changed this regulation to have a look-back period that went back the entirety of, I guess, the overcharge period for any given case. Has it just never been addressed in during this period of time?
For the record, Rebecca Wagner, unless something rises to the top and bubbles up over everything else that's going on, it's not likely that the commission's going to look back. They do a review of their regulations periodically. That's required by law and most often by new governors. And so they could have done it. I just don't know, and Mr. Weir would be the best person to ask this question of how they could address it outside of legislation or a look back, because I think it's really based on something really, really outdated.
I guess my next question is when, like in this situation where the PUCN decided that this particular customer was owed the 6 months back, did that include interest, or was that just the payment for the 6 months? Do we know?
For the record, I don't know.
Okay. And then is it the utility that is ordered to repay that by the PUCN?
For the record, Rebecca Wagner, yes. They collected the cost from the customer, like any kind of business refund, right? They collected more than they should have, and then they're responsible for the refund back to the customer.
And I don't know if you know this from your previous role at the PUCN, or if any of you know it from the conversations in the drafting of this bill. Are those overcharge payments that are ordered to be repaid, are they using ratepayer dollars, or are they like shareholder dollars?
For the record, Rebecca Wagner, it would have to be shareholder dollars.
Okay. And is that the way it currently stands, or would we need that statutory clarification in a bill like this to make sure that this was profit dollars and not ratepayer dollars?
For the record, Rebecca Wagner, I have not thought about it to that degree, and you raise a valid point. I think it's clear if there's an overcharge, it's the utilities shareholders who are responsible for that error. It wouldn't be fair to just charge other customers to make up for that difference. So I don't know if we need additional clarity in this bill, but it could put a finer point on it and make it abundantly clear.
Okay, do we have any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much. At this time, we will begin testimony in support of Assembly Bill 452.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Julia Hubbard, and I'm the Nevada Program Director of Solar United Neighbors Action. We support AB 452 because it would mandate the Public Utilities Commission to thoroughly evaluate fuel cost practices, explore options for a cost-sharing mechanism, and assess whether implementing such a policy is in the public interest. If found in the public interest and implemented, it could also shift some financial responsibility back onto the utility so that these costs are shared appropriately, with both ratepayers and shareholders sharing the burden. Nevadans are paying some of the highest utility bills in the nation, and this bill provides a pathway towards affordability and stabilization. This bill would also give regulators more time to review utility proposals for general rate cases, promoting greater accountability and improving oversight to protect consumers. And we're also very supportive of the requirement that customers receive full refunds with interest when overcharged. This common sense protection ensures that when billing errors occur, consumers are properly compensated and utilities are not wrongly holding these funds. We urge your support for this important bill, and thank you for your time today.
Chair Nguyen, members of the committee, my name is Kaylin Cardavani, Kardavani, on behalf of New Day Nevada. New Day Nevada proudly supports this bill as it is consistent with our commitment to fairness and consumer advocacy. AB 452 represents a meaningful step towards leveling the playing field for Nevada utility customers, ensuring they are treated fairly. This bill creates much-needed incentives for the utility to better manage energy costs and also encourages greater investment in homegrown clean energy sources that can provide long-term cost stability for Nevadans. Thank you again, and we urge your support for AB 452.
Good afternoon, Chair Nguyen and members of the committee. My name is Nadine Kennifer with Ferrari Reader Public Affairs, representing Western Resource Advocates. For the record, that is KIENHOEFER. WRA intervenes in both general rate cases and integrated resource planning proceedings at the Public Utilities Commission, representing and advocating for interests of everyday Nevadans. WRA strongly supports AB 452 as amended. Sharing the risk that comes from exposure of the volatile nature of natural gas prices can result in a more prudent investment by the utility, encouraging better long-term resource planning and prevent Nevadans from feeling the full effect of spikes in prices. The bill also authorizes the Commission to extend the timeline for certain applications by the utility. The extension could allow regulatory staff, the Bureau of Consumer Protection, and the interveners more time to adequately examine and analyze these applications when warranted. We urge the committee to support.
Good afternoon, Chair Nguyen and members of the committee. My name is Jana Moan, that's Jainamoan, and I'm here representing the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy supports AB 452, which we think will help enhance the transparency of fuel costs for utility customers and will help design a fuel cost sharing mechanism that is equitable for all. Thank you to the bill sponsors for bringing the bill forward, and thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Olivia Tanager. For the record, I'm the director of the Sierra Club's Toyabe chapter. I'm here in strong support of this bill as well. A lot of my colleagues have echoed the sentiments that I was going to say here today. I will add for the record that the Sierra Club Toyabe chapter also intervenes in both general rate cases and integrated resource plans. And certainly we would appreciate the extra time to deal with these cases. However, the thing that we are really passionate about is making sure that everyday Nevadans are able to give input into rate cases and how folks would be affected by rate hikes, and also how folks are impacted by the integrated resource plans. So for that reason, we appreciate the additional time to provide input both on behalf of advocates and behalf of community members. Generally, what we hear from community members regularly is that folks really want to see more utility accountability, and they really want to see more transparency as well. So this is something that we're hearing regularly. I'm sure you all are as well. This is a community-backed proposal, and with that, I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else here in Carson City. If we can move to Las Vegas, go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Nguyen and the members of the committee. My name is Dr. Mary House, Maryhouse. I am the CEO of CH&R, where we work every day to help families in Southern Nevada overcome poverty, find stable employment, and access critical resources. I'm here to support of AB 452. You see, every day I hear from families and seniors who are stretched to their breaking point by high NV energy bills. They're cutting back on life-saving air conditioning, skipping meals, rationing medicine, and they're still falling behind. For those living on low income and fixed income, the cycle of high bills are relentless and dangerous. People are doing everything they can to survive, but they can't keep weathering prolonged periods of unstable electric bills. AB 452 is a much-needed step towards fixing the problem. It gives Nevada households stronger protection, ensures that they are fully refunded if overcharged, and opens a door to a more stable and affordable energy system. Nevadans deserve an energy system that works for us, not just a monopoly utility. So please support AB 452 and help bring real relief to those who need it most. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Clotea Smith, Clotea Smith, and I'm just here to let you know that me and my family, we are really struggling. We have to call the utility every month, especially my utility went from 50-something dollars to $108. I just got my bill yesterday. So I'm speaking for people that are on fixed income, and I am a senior. So please support this bill. Thank you.
Hello there, good afternoon. My name is Frederick James Smith. I support AB 452. It is important for a person like myself who is a disabled veteran who is on a fixed income. Since my arrival here in Las Vegas in 2017, I have seen my electric bill increase over the years, minimum $20 every year. I need and want this bill to be approved on behalf of myself and other veterans who can't afford these high electric bills. I see the construction workers out there fixing the street lights due to the fact that people have been stealing those wires, and I think that we as Nevadans should not have to pay those costs. And maybe that's why the electric bills have been going up. Either way, I don't think it's fair for fixed income people, elderly people, disabled people who don't have money for other things to stretch their minds on paying a increased electric bill. I support AB 452, and I hope you guys do also.
Thank you, Chair Wen and committee members. My name is Caitlin Gatchalian, Caitlan, Gatchalian, and I'm the Nevada representative for Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. I'm here in support of AB 452, and I want to echo the sentiments from our partners. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Wen and members of the committee. My name is Shonda Johnson, SHAUNDA, JOHNSON. I'm the Executive Director of Faith in Action Nevada, which is a statewide faith-based organization building people power to create systemic change across Nevada's most marginalized communities. At the heart of our work is a simple belief. Every Nevadan deserves to be able to afford basic needs like electricity. But right now, our families are left to carry the full weight of fuel price spikes, while NV Energy faces no consequences for poor planning or overcharging customers. When people of faith see this kind of imbalance, where monopoly power is protected and people are not, we are called to act. AB 452 gives state regulators the tools to repair a broken system, one that puts all of the risk of high fuel cost on customers and also allows NV Energy to overcharge customers and only offer partial refunds. This bill will set these issues right. I urge you to support AB 452, and thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Eugenia Prenes. I am a volunteer. I'm sorry. My first name is spelled Maria. Last name is Prentice. I'm a volunteer with the Chispa, Nevada, a resident of the state. I have seen my electric bill increase. The fuel cost is unfair. The electric companies pass the 100% of this increase to customers. Personally, I cannot afford the payments since my husband recently passed away. And under my care, I have guardianship of a minor. Excuse me. My pension doesn't barely covers my expenses of my household. And therefore, many families, like you had heard here in Nevada, have gone through the same situation. So therefore, I strongly ask you and I beg you to support AB 452, which seeks more equitable distribution of the cost. I consider this proposal as well as being our communities, and like the Constitution says, we the people are speaking. Thank you for your attention and your support. Please support AB 452. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Pastor Marlon Anderson. That's MARLONANDERSON, and I serve the Clean Energy Community Organizer for Faith Organizing Alliance. I would just like to say right now, it's the hardworking Nevadans who are on the hook for Nevada Energy's fuel and power purchase decisions. If fuel prices double or even triple, we have to pay for it, not Nevada Energy executives or investors. There's something really wrong with the system and morally wrong with the system that punishes hardworking Nevadans instead of holding the monopoly utility accountable for its bad decisions and mistakes. AB 452 gives you a chance to fix that. It helps shift some of the risk off struggling families and back where it belongs, which is on Nevada Energy. On behalf of the community I serve, I urge you to support AB 452. Thank you. God bless you.
Good afternoon. My name is Citlali Ayala, for the record. I'm a volunteer with Chispa, Nevada. As a mother, I'm a caregiver worker. I strongly support AB 452. This law will help families like mine by ensuring Nevada Energy shares the cost of gas purchases, preventing energy bills from continuing to raise uncontrollably. AB 452 will make the company assume part of the responsibility, relieve the burden of our wallet. It's not fair that only we pay the high cost while others benefits. Thank you so much for to support AB 452. Thank you.
Chair and the member of the committee, thank you for opportunity to speak. My name is Li Chen, a community organizer with One API in Nevada, a grassroots organization that empower Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community across the state. I'm here in strong support of AB 452. This bill ensures working family aren't stuck with paying for utility overcharges and create better system where energy companies share responsibility for rising fuel costs. Our community already face economic burdens, and AB 452 brings needed accountability and relief. I urge you to pass the bill. Thank you.
I'm sorry, before you step away from the microphone, would you mind spelling and stating your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. My name is Li Chen, Lichen, for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Hector. I am the Policy Fellow with the Nevada Environmental Justice Coalition, and we are here in full support of AB 456. Nevadans have been burdened with by unfair and unpredictable energy costs. With NV Energy operating as a monopoly, everyday ratepayers shoulder the financial risk, while NV Energy and its shareholders remain largely isolated. In recent years, we see corporations hike prices and rake in record-breaking profits, all while working families struggle to keep up. NV Energy is no exception, engaging in the same predatory practices. This bill holds NV Energy accountable, and we urge the committee to support AB 452. Thank you for your time and dedication to the people of our state.
And I'm sorry, Hector, could you state your last name for the record?
Arreola, Arreo.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Audrey Pearl, for the record, AudreyPeral. I am the director of Chispa, Nevada, and I'm here in support of AB 452. Our families are already facing high energy burdens worsened by the outdated energy systems reliant on fossil fuels. When rates go up, it hits our lower income communities hardest. Our communities deserve a utility system that works for the people, not just for shareholders. Please refer to the letter I submitted in support, and we urge the committee passage of AB 452. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Carlos Guardado, Juan Guardado for the records. I am a community organizer with Chispa, Nevada, and I would like to share that, like many in our community, I have seen how Nevada Energy high electricity costs drain our wallets month after month. In my household, every bill increase means less money for food, medicine, or basic needs. AB 452 is a fair solution. It requires Nevada Energy to share the burden gas cost rather than passing them entirely to our families. For this reason, I urge you to approve this law to relieve the economic pressure for many of us. Thank you.
It looks like I'm the last one up here in Las Vegas. Tom Dudas, and not first come in here to speak on this issue, but I am in approval of 452. As I go back to the time when Energy Commission was brought forward to address net metering, and how the experience with Berkshire Hathaway Energy and the advantages that they were trying to take in that time period against all the consumers who were spending a great deal on capital for adding solar panels in the area. They are looking at some large transmission lines too. And this is where I feel the accounting that is directed at 452 to take place is extremely important. Berkshire Hathaway Energy was found to be guilty by the DOJ of overcharging all the people of Clark County and the state. It is now a question as to their transmission lines going from state to state. Interstate commerce should be looking at it in the federal sense, but I doubt that's going to happen. They are owners of 10 power companies over 10 states. So one little household to dispute the bill is Goliath being brought down by David and the little rock, and it's pretty hard to do. This gas mention of gas power pricing to the electrical billing is also a question in accounting as to that they are moving to greater solar use with battery backup to service. Since we don't have any gas lines producing gas in the state, it is the accounting of what's being charged on transport lines. Again, this is a look back at Enron and how they cheated their public. So there is many criminal natures to what is a private utility company that was sought to be purchased at one time when it was a public utility, and stocks could be purchased for individuals to own.
I'm sorry.
I think I've taken my time, and there
Thank
you
you.
go.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And if you do have additional comments, you can always submit those to the committee in writing if you'd like to elaborate on anything that is contained outside of this bill. I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas. If we can go to the phone lines for testimony in support.
If you'd like to testify in support on AB 452, please press star 9 on your phone to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 773, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller, you're unmuted and you may proceed. Once again, caller with the last 3 digits, 773, you are unmuted and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is John Michael Morales. That's JOHNMICHAEL-MORALES. Proudly served in the United States Air Force, retiring after 22 years. I'm here today in support of Assembly Bill 452 because transparency isn't a luxury, it's a duty. When I served, we were taught that leadership and integrity meant owning every decision you make and being accountable to the people you serve. I believe that principle should apply to public utilities. Nevadans deserve to know where their money is going, especially when prices soar and families are left to shoulder the costs without explanation. AB 452 brings long overdue transparency to the system. It demands oversight, accountability, and fairness, values that are the backbone of good governance and quality service. It isn't about politics, it's about trust. When utilities overcharge customers, this bill makes sure they make it right with interest. I urge you to support Assembly Bill 452. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's MATHILDA-MILLER, Government Relations Director of Native Voters Alliance Nevada, and we're in strong support of the Assembly Bill 452. Let's be honest, the current system only works if you're the utility. It does not work for elders who are forced to choose between life-saving prescriptions and their power bill. It does not work for families who are trying to get through triple-digit summers while wondering if they can afford to run the AC. It does not work for families who suddenly have to stretch their pockets and their paycheck even further when their energy doubles overnight through no fault of their own. The current system protects shareholder profits. AB 452 protects the people. Right now, utilities pass 100% of fuel cost volatility directly onto ratepayers. That's no risk to shareholders, no accountability for poor planning, and Nevadans are left holding the bill. This is course correction. It begins to shift the burden back to where it belongs, onto the utility who profit from our basic, non-negotiable need to keep the lights on, the heat running, and our homes livable. This bill is about fairness, it's about transparency, and it's about building on an energy system that finally puts working families, not corporations, at the center of the conversation. We should be moving towards greater public accountability, not away from it. We should be fighting for affordability. This bill is a step in the right direction. We urge your support. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wynn and members of the committee. My name is Callie McKenna, and I'm here to testify on behalf of Advanced Energy United. Advanced Energy United is a national business trade association of advanced energy technologies and services spanning both utility scale and distribution level. We engage both in the legislative realm as well as the regulatory, intervening in integrated resource plans and other relevant proceedings at the PUCN. We are here in support of AB 452 and believe that the investigatory docket will lead to increased transparency, ratepayer protection, and future alignment of investments with ratepayer and state interests. We respectfully urge the committee to support AB 452, and thank you for your time.
Chair and members of the committee, my name is Shantil Roberts. I am the Regional Director for Vote Solar. I'm here today in support of AB 452 because it's time for Nevada Energy Systems to work for people, for ratepayers, not just utility shareholders. We submitted a letter, and please refer to the letter. We urge you to support AB 452. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Tammy Romo, T-A-M-I-R-O-M-O. I am touched about all the good testimony that has been put forward for this bill. Nevada used to be a place where we can come live and not have much worries about how we were going to survive. It's not like that anymore. We're getting hit in every which way we turn with high gas prices, high utilities, high food prices. It's been unbearable at times, and sometimes we never know what it's going to bring and how high our bills are going to be, and that's a scary thought. And we need to do something. We need to have truth and honesty and transparency and find a way so that we can survive and not have to stress about, where we're going to, how and where we're going to pay our next bill. So I definitely support AB 452. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we will start opposition testimony to Assembly Bill 452. I'd ask you to come up to the table if you are here to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 452. And if you are in Las Vegas, I'd ask you to fill in those chairs as well. And go ahead and begin. We'll start here in Carson City. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Nguyen, members of the committee. My name is Ryan Bellows. I'm the Vice President of Government and External Relations at NV Energy. I guess I'll spell my name, RYANBELLOWS, and I'm here today in opposition to Assembly Bill 452. So while we heard from the bill proponents that this bill is to enact a cost-sharing mechanism, I would tell you that the purpose of this bill is really to prevent us from utilizing natural gas to serve our customers and to build out Nevada's energy infrastructure for economic development. They want us to rely exclusively on renewable energy, which we simply cannot do. The technology just isn't there. While storage technology has really come a long ways, solar and storage alone is not going to serve Nevada's energy needs, and certainly not the level of growth that's being asked of us to serve. And I would tell you that we are already a leader in renewable energy, a national leader. In fact, we just reported that in the year 2024, we actually served our customers with over 47% renewable energy. We will be completely out of coal by the end of 2025. And we are well on our way to hitting the goal or the mandate in 2030 of serving our customers with 50% renewable energy. So I would certainly put up our record on renewable energy with any other utility in the nation. Without the tools necessary to really meet the growth that we're seeing and the level of request that we're seeing, this bill will stifle economic development. And passing this bill would really be a signal to markets that Nevada is no longer open for business and that it cannot support new economic development. I would also say that it is a misnomer to think that we can spend whatever we want to buy on energy for our customers. We heard folks say that there's no stake in the game for us. Well, that's not correct. So we do not mark up any of these purchases that we make, but every single dollar that we spend on a market purchase is reviewed by the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada, the commission staff, and also the consumer advocate. And so the commission already has full authority to deny any cost recovery for any purchase that was made that they deem to be imprudent. And I would tell you that over the years, the commission has used this power several times. And so I would say that we do have a stake in the game, and there are consequences to the decisions that we make and the purchases that we make. So I would say that the existing system works. This bill really attempts to provide a solution for a problem that just doesn't exist. And I want to speak for just a second on the cost issue. Really, we heard a lot about predictability and stability. The only way to ensure perfect stability and predictability would be to go to a long-term hedging model. And we know that when you pursue these hedging contracts, that all it does is raise costs for our customers. And so that's not a good model to go to. Also want to just spend a second, Chair Nguyen, you had a few questions on the refund issue. One portion of the bill attempts to address that issue, and just want to clarify a few of the misconceptions that are out there on this issue. So NV Energy complies with commission-approved rules on customer refunds. For the vast majority of billing errors that occur, there is a rule that has been approved. It's Rule 5. And so what Rule 5 does is it governs refunds back to the date on which the error occurred, and the utility then reimburses back to the date of the error, reimburses that to the customer. Rule 2 is what has been an issue in recent cases, and that is just a specific subset or specific error. And so that is where a customer receives service under the wrong rate schedule. And so when that occurs, the rule is that it's a 6-month payment back to the customer. And so we are currently communicating with the commission on this issue, on how to address and improve and correct this rule going forward. We think this solution is better served to be fashioned in the regulatory side of the house, and we are certainly committed to addressing that. And so in sum, I would just tell you that the regulations that we have in place today and the process that we have in place today are really working for our customers, and we would urge you to vote no on AB 452. Thank you.
Mr. Bellows, can I ask you a couple of questions just to follow up on that? What do you have internally before it rises to the level of a customer who has been overcharged or suspects they've been overcharged for any period of time, whether it's one billing cycle or, 6 years of billing cycles? What type of mechanisms do you have in place internally to address and resolve some of those? Or do you wait for them all to resolve at the PUCN?
Thank you for the question, Chair Nguyen. Ryan Bellows for the record. So the rules are in place and they govern how refunds work. So when an error comes to our attention, either we uncover it or a customer comes to us and identifies an error, we then look to the appropriate rule and make the payment. So oftentimes the PUC doesn't have any involvement in that refund payment.
Is there anything that stops you from, like, I know you referenced Rule 2K that goes back to a 6-month time period. Is there anything in that rule, the PUCN rules, like that regulatory body that prohibits you from refunding that customer that was, overcharged for 6 years?
Chair Nguyen, Ryan Bellows for the record. I can look into that and see if there's any prohibition on that. I'm not currently aware of any.
I'm just wondering why it would have to rise to that level. I mean, that's a pretty egregious statement if someone overpaid for 6 years and then they only were able to recover 6 months of that because of this regulation. And so I'm just curious if you feel like your company is limited in that recovery, or you're just choosing that because that is what the PUCN has already set, or if you can go above and beyond and recover, I guess, making that customer right in that situation, or it does take legislative action to make sure that we're doing the right thing here.
Chair Nguyen, Ryan Bellows for the record. I think that some of those errors, and there was a little bit of discussion around who makes that repayment, and so those rules govern that, and depending on the type of error, that would determine, the commission would determine who makes that payment. So we wouldn't want to be in the practice of making any kind of overpayment over and above the rules if it's not going to be paid by us, if it's going to be recovered through other customers, for example.
Okay. I guess my next question is I kind of alluded to because I wasn't sure. Do you have a way to distinguish when you are making these repayments for a customer that was overcharged for, let's say the maximum right now is 6 months? Do you have a way of determining whether or not that is from shareholder profits or if that is from ratepayer dollars?
Chair Nguyen, Ryan Bellows for the record. It would depend on the type of error, and we would seek commission input on how that error is to be paid and recovered.
Can you describe an error that would come from ratepayers as opposed to shareholder dollars?
Ryan Bellows for the record. I'd have to look back and get that information, and I'll provide it to the committee.
I'm just really curious about that. Obviously, that's concerning that I'm hearing a situation where, one, a customer was overcharged for 6 years and was only able to recover 6 months of that overcharging. And then it turns out it could be a situation where ratepayer dollars are being used to pay back that person that was was overcharged in the first place. So if you can get that information, I think that would be really helpful in seeing like the full picture when it responds to this. As far as some of these other issues on reporting, some of these, the impact on the customer, do you have any issues with some of those requirements as far as the other portions of the bill?
Chair Wynn, Ryan Bellows for the record. Could you clarify what other portions, I guess specifically?
I guess, I mean, I'm really not sure I understand what opposition you have to this investigatory docket that just examines how the cost for purchase fuel and purchase power are currently passed through to customers. Like, is there something that's so overburdensome in that transparency piece that would lead to higher costs for you all and ultimately the ratepayer?
Ryan Bellows for the record. I think it's our position is that the adoption of fuel cost sharing would lead to increased costs for customers. And so the investigatory dockets, it's not simply an investigatory docket that's being asked for in this bill. It also gives the authority for the commission to adopt regulations and rulemaking to carry out that piece. And so typically that's not how the investigatory docket works. The investigatory docket usually occurs and then there's a recommendation. So I think the concern, as I stated at the beginning, is if fuel cost sharing is implemented, that it will simply raise costs for customers.
I guess it isn't automatic in the bill. The PUCN would still have to use that data that they're collecting to determine whether or not that's the appropriate mechanism. Am I incorrect on that?
Ryan Bellows for the record, that is correct.
Okay, so this doesn't mandate the PUCN to do any of these things. It just says that they should collect this stuff, and if it turns out that, you know, there are added costs and there could be cost savings to the customers, then they could like institute some of this cost sharing. Am I understanding that incorrectly?
Ryan Bellows for the record, that's also how I understand it.
Okay. I thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to answer some of those questions, and I will, unless anyone else has any further questions, I don't see any, I will let you off the hook for now. And we'll move on to continuing opposition testimony to Assembly Bill 452.
Good afternoon, Chair Wynn. For the record, my name is Danny Thompson, THOMPSON. I'm representing IBW 396 and IBW 1245. You know, Nevada moved away from these types of risky policies after the early 2000s, where California had their energy crisis that had rolling blackouts, energy spikes, and utility failures. We spent decades rebuilding our system here and making a better system, and I think, and it works today. And today, utilities recover fuel costs only after they've been approved by the PUC. Our members are the men and women who keep natural gas running and keep our power plants running and keep the lights on in Nevada. Make no mistake, AB 452 is the first step toward phasing out natural gas and phasing out their jobs as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Robert Purdy, representing the Northern Nevada Development Authority. I'll keep it short and to ditto Mr. Thompson's comments, but we believe it just adds unnecessary complexity without clear benefits to any of the parties. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair Wynn, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. For the sake of brevity, I'll also echo the comments made by those who testified before me and just quickly add, we do have some continued concerns over the uncertainty this creates with infrastructure updates and expansion and the negative impact that can have on our economic growth for the state. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair Wynn and Honorable Committee. For the record, my name is Wendy Colborn, Chief of Staff for the Building and Construction Trades Council of Northern Nevada. And while we do applaud the sponsors' efforts and their intent, we remain concerned that AB 452 stretches timelines and increases uncertainty for projects which would be detrimental for our trades. When uncertainty in market conditions increases, energy investment declines, and it's not just projects that stall, it's also livelihoods. Nevada's skilled tradespeople face fewer job opportunities and apprenticeships get put on hold. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. Each job represents someone's ability to provide for their family and contribute to our community. Our concern is that this bill could significantly reduce investment in energy projects in our state, directly impacting the men and women who build, maintain, and operate these critical facilities. Northern Nevada Building Trades therefore opposes AB 452. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tomas Hammond, Tomas Hammond, with the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, and we echo the comments in opposition that have been made. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing the Nevada State AFL-CIO. We'd like to echo the comments made by our affiliates in the IBEW and the building trades and express our opposition to Assembly Bill 452. The Nevada State AFL-CIO sincerely appreciates Assemblymember Brown May's commitment to engaging with labor stakeholders, and we encourage continued dialogue with the IBEW and the building trades to reach a solution that works best for all parties involved. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. My name is Zoe Houghton, Z-O-E, last name H-O-U-G-H-T-O-N, with 3C House here on behalf of the National Electrical Contractors Association, Northern Nevada Division. Just would like to echo the comments previously, particularly related to the uncertainty with infrastructure and economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. That's T-O-M-C-L-A-R-K. I'm here on behalf of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce in opposition to AB 352. And you're absolutely right, Madam Chair. It's not necessarily the study of the information that is making us nervous. It's the outcome that could come because of that. We recognize that the PUC, and if you've ever sat through your PUC hearing on these types of cases, they are very, very thorough on how the utility can recover those costs for the fuels that they have to buy. I think that the movement that the utility has made, getting away from coal and going to more stable prices like natural gas, is good. More importantly, closer to my heart, is the amount of solar and renewable energy. And whether it's geothermal, any of those real renewable energy sources, they're on the horizon. We're making progress there, and it's good progress, and we support that as well. But for this particular reason, on the cost-sharing side, we are opposed to this legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't see anyone else here in Carson City. If you are here in Las Vegas to testify in opposition to AB 452, please go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ronnie Young. I'm with the IBEW Local 357 in Las Vegas. We stand in solidarity with our outside IBEW locals and hope you have a great day.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Newman, representing the Southern Nevada chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association, NECA. AB 452 could lead to less spending on energy infrastructure, which means fewer opportunities in construction, maintenance, and operations. We respectfully urge you to vote no on AB 452. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Aaron Ibarra with the Southern Nevada Building Trades. We'd like to ditto our brothers and sisters at the IBEW. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else at the table in Las Vegas, so we'll go to the phone lines for testimony in opposition of AB 452.
If you'd like to testify in opposition on AB 452, please press *9 on your phone to take your place in the queue.
Hello, this is Peter Guzman, President of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. We are opposed to this legislation, and we stand with our brothers and sisters at IBEW and others, including the small business members, who absolutely want Nevada to be considered open for business, open for investment. And that's what we want to continue to see that in the future. And that's why we are opposed to this bill, which would take us backwards. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Thomas Bird, capital T-H-O-M-A-S, Thomas, last name Bird, capital B-I-R-D. I'm president of NARA, the Nevada Alliance for Retired Americans. I'm here opposing AB 452 as currently amended. I'm speaking on behalf of the Nevada Alliance for Retired Americans with 20,000 members statewide, adding complexity and risk to the current system. which are already reviewed and studied, will ultimately raise bills and increase costs to our members. Low-income and fixed-income customers are most affected by rate fluctuation. Any instability, no matter how moderate, creates uncertainty for seniors on fixed incomes who could already be making decisions on whether to buy life-saving medications or food. AB 452 just adds a cumbersome process and no real value to customers. For these reasons, NARA urges a no vote on AB 452. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Chair Wynn and members of the committee. My name is Emily Osterberg, OSTERBERG, representing the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, and there are over 2,000 members, the majority of whom are small businesses, to express our opposition to AB 452. While the bill is well-intentioned, it does introduce unnecessary risk into a utility cost recovery system that is already working effectively for Nevada's residents and businesses. The risks created by this bill are particularly concerning for Nevada's business community, which relies on predictable and affordable electricity to operate, invest, and grow. Increased financial risk for utilities can lead to delayed infrastructure development or higher rates. It also threatens Nevada's attractiveness to new investment, particularly for energy-intensive industries evaluating long-term commitments to the state. In short, AB 452 adds more regulatory process without delivering clear value to customers. For these reasons, we are opposed to AB 452. Thank you.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jacob Haas, JACOB HAAS, and I am the business manager for IBEW Local 401 in Reno, Nevada, representing over 1,100 members. And we are in opposition to this bill for the delayed infrastructure and the risk of putting my members out of work as these delays happen. And we believe that the way it is working right now and should not be changed. Thank you.
There are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And that we will go to neutral testimony. If there's anyone here to testify in neutral on AB 452, I'd ask you to come up to the table, either here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. And go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Wynn, members of the committee. My name is Garrett Weir, GARRETTWEIR. I'm General Counsel for the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada. And first, I would just like to express our gratitude to Assemblymember Brown May for her outreach to the PUC and for incorporating our feedback into the revised version. Next, I would like to just briefly clarify the status of the customer refunds that were discussed and are specifically addressed by Section 1.7 of the bill. This is a matter that is currently pending before the Commission's Consumer Complaint Resolution Division. So my understanding is that we will be receiving, or that the Commission will be receiving, a forthcoming recommendation as to those refunds. The applicability and interpretation of some of those timelines and tariff provisions are potentially currently in dispute. And so depending on what the recommendation is from the Consumer Complaint Resolution Division, the Commission would then hear that matter and resolve those disputed issues. So again, the proposed change to statute would certainly clarify what the rule would be, and to the extent that the rules that have been adopted by the Commission don't reflect that standard, they would need to be revised. But there may currently be a dispute as to whether the Commission's adopted tariffs do already require full refunds under the circumstances presented. And I guess with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has regarding the effects of the bill or its implementation by the PUC.
I do have a couple of questions. I think you probably know where I'm going. Mr. Bellows had, with NV Energy, had indicated when I had asked him questions about how it would depend on who was at fault or what the determination was from the PUC, given some of those overcharges. So if there were overpay, or a customer overpaid, and they were awarded that back payment for those 6 months that are currently in regulation, it would depend on the circumstances on who would pay that, whether it be ratepayer dollars or shareholder dollars. Do you know of any circumstances where it would be, there's a distinction between ratepayer dollars as opposed to shareholder dollars?
Thank you for the record, Garrett Weir. I want to be careful because this is something that is going to likely be pending or is pending before the commission, I guess, the investigatory phase with the Consumer Complaint Resolution Division, and then will be before the commission itself potentially. But
If that's the case, I don't want you to have to talk about an open pending case, but have you had other overpayment cases that have resolved in different ways, whether it's shareholder dollars or ratepayer dollars?
for the record, Garrett Weir, I'd have to get back to you on that. Their rates are set based on, the historic, or basically what the expected revenues are from different customer classes. And so in this circumstance, or something similar to it, where there's an over collection from a customer based on which customer class they're placed in, the utility would be receiving revenue that's in error based on what the revenue was supposed to be based on the rates that were in effect. So under that circumstance, I'm not familiar with any instances where customers would pay for that difference. Theoretically, the revenue had already been generated that was allowed pursuant to rates.
Would you have to make a specific finding as the PUCN on a situation like that, that the overpayment was required to be paid back by the utility that overcharged the customer, and that those overpayment amounts could not be made using, that customer could not be made whole by using ratepayer dollars? Would you have to make that specific determination?
For the record, Garrett Weir, it's likely that cost recovery for those sorts of things would show up in a future rate case, and so those issues could be addressed at that time by the commission and other parties. But whether there was an overcollection or and the fault of that, the circumstances would generally be addressed pursuant to the consumer complaint process, which, as it was described by in the initial testimony regarding the bill, it initiates with the Consumer Complaint Resolution Division generally in an informal sort of mediation process through which the independent investigatory arm of the commission engages with the customer and the utility to try to resolve disputes, and often, probably the vast majority of the time, those disputes are resolved, the customer is satisfied with the result, and it never comes before the decision-making body. In the event that those disputes are not resolved informally, then they are transmitted to the commission for review, and there can be a hearing held where further information is gathered.
And then just another final question. Obviously, if it's not clear, obviously I have concerns that we're using ratepayer dollars to pay back, overpayments by a utility. And then I know that this is an existing regulation or rule to only go 6 months back. Has the PUCN ever thought about changing that, or were you there when the 6 months was adopted? Do you have, I guess, a PUCN history as opposed to a legislative history on how you determined that 6 months was appropriate? especially in a situation where you have someone overpaying for 6 years. An average consumer might not even realize that they're overpaying. So I'm curious on kind of that process of that rural development, and two, whether or not there's ever been any indication to revisit that 6 months determination.
For the record, Garrett Weir. So that is the specific issue that I expect is going to be in front of the commission is really, has the commission adopted that standard for this particular utility under those circumstances? And, the interpretation and application of those tariff provisions is likely contested, will come before the commission. So that is something to, I guess, my expectation is that we'll be seeing a recommendation soon from the commission's independent investigatory arm, the regulatory operations staff of the commission, which houses the Consumer Complaint Resolution Division.
Don't think we have any other questions, so thank you for your neutral testimony and also answering some of those existing questions. And we will go to our next testimony in neutral. You know what? There's a little button that you have to push and it turns green.
Cyrus Hojati, Hojjjaty. I'll just echo what he just pointed out. A lot of good points.
Thank you for your testimony. And I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. If we can go to the phone lines for testimony in neutral, that would be wonderful.
Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. And with that, we will close testimony. I will invite the bill sponsor up for any closing statements you'd like to make.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. Tracy Brown May for the record. You know what they say, when both sides are mad, you probably have a good policy. So first, I must acknowledge the good work of our labor brothers and sisters and the importance of good and safe jobs. Our IBEW friends are really important, and to make sure that we have consistency in our utility. Then I must call it the consistency of the lights being on in this building and many others. Across our great state, the utilities' work to supply our energy is commendable, and I appreciate their work to address overpayments and to talk through the complexities. We must also acknowledge the good work of NCL and their work to ensure that we have healthy, fair, and transparent energy policy for our community. Finally, the PUC and their work. We have to trust their process and their professional skill set to carry out their charge. On behalf of my constituents who are concerned about affordability and transparency in their energy costs, this measure simply asks for our state commission to open an investigatory docket so that we can discover what the right policy is, and then we're asking to address overcharges. That's it. We thank you for the opportunity to present this measure today, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I will close the bill hearing on this Ming and go on to our next item, which is public comment. If you are here to testify in public comment, please come up to the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. I don't see anyone moving towards the table in Las Vegas. It looks like they are moving out of the building, and I don't see anyone coming up to the table here in Carson City. So if we can go to the phone lines to see if there's anyone to testify in public comment on the phones.
To participate in public comment, please press star 9 on your phone to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Wonderful. And with that, we will close public comment. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday. And I think it should be a pretty long hearing. I think we will welcome Assemblymember Brown May back to our committee to present again. And with that, we will adjourn.